everyone, Stephanie Davis here today. Today I'm going to be sharing this card that I made using Wplus9 stamp set Little Dreamers. And this is a super cute stamp set, and I also have the coordinating dies, of course. So I was inspired to make this card when I picked up these new watercolors. These are from Prima, and this is the Watercolor Confections set, and this is the Classic set. And I actually love this set. I think if you're just starting to get interested in watercolors, this is a great set to start out with. I have it linked below, but you can get it at Amazon for under $10. And this has many colors you'd want to use, and I found this set to be easy to use and for beginners, and also it didn't muddy and it didn't get chalky, which is my criteria. I don't like paints that get chalky. So I'm just showing you a little bit of the process in case you are new to watercolors as I am, but these are wrapped up like little candies when you get them, and they're so cute. But there's some little metal clips you can bend back to get them out and then push them in to make the little pan stay put. And I'm adhering little scraps from my dies, the magnets I use for my dies, to the bottom so that I can keep them in place a little better and they won't move around when I put my brush in. So I'm using a little water dropper bottle to add a little bit of water to each pan, and then I'm going to swatch them out. And this little swatch comes with a set, so it's all there ready for you. But I also do use a swatch, make some swatches with some Canson water paper, because I think I can see the colors better on the actual paper that I'm going to use. So I'm going to take some of this Canson watercolor paper and I'm going to cut it down just to make a regular A2 card base, but I'm going to make it, I think I made it like 5 by 6 because I'm going to need to tape it down to a board. So you want it larger than your card base so you can cut it down. So as usual, I'm going to take all these images and stamp them all out because I think they come to life when you color them. So I really like to color them and then decide what I'm going to do. So I'm using my Misty, and I'm going to use my little powder tool because of course I'm also going to heat emboss this because I think heat embossing is the busy mom's way to do anything with water. It just helps you stain the lines a little easier, and I think why wouldn't you want to do it the easy way? So I'm using my powder tool again because I'm going to stamp these out with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and that'll give a nice clean image, and it really just embosses really well too. So I'm using some Ranger clear embossing powder to coat this with the embossing powder, and I'm using my little coffee filter to catch all of the powder. Again, just another quick and easy way. Jennifer McGuire shared this tip a few years back, and I really wasn't doing much embossing until she shared that because I didn't want to get messy and I need the easy way. So here I'm using my Close to My Heart scrubber, but you guys will see the stamps are not getting clean even after I use my Norwex towel. And that is because I needed it, and I left this part in intentionally to tell you guys, if you've picked that up, you have to wash it every now and then. And that's what I didn't do. I was too lazy, and all you do is take it to the sink and run it under hot water and get all the soap and ink residue out of there, and then they'll stamp beautifully again. But I did not do that, so that's why they don't look very clean. Okay, so I'm using my little heat tool to emboss those images, and then now they'll have a nice little teeny line to resist some of the watercolor paint and make it even easier for me to stain the lines. So now I'm going to cut my card base, and I think I did 4.5 by 6 inches, and yeah, this was my actual card background. So I made it 4.5 by 6 inches, so it gave me a little extra leeway to cut off. So I taped it down to my board, and this is just a board again I picked up on Amazon. I'll have it linked below for you guys. But I like that it has a handle and it's thin, and I just really like it. So I'm using my water dropper bottle to put some water in each section of this little palette that I'm using. And because the key to watercoloring is adding lots of water. I think the biggest mistake I was making when I first started watercoloring and I didn't know how much I love it is I was painting directly out of the palette. And you don't see the magic until you add the water. So I have my paper taped down, and I'm just going to start adding color. And the first thing I did is run a flat brush full of water because that's going to make if the paper is wet, then the watercolors kind of mix together and it's really pretty. I'm just learning watercolors if you're new to my channel. So I can't tell you how to do everything. I just have to show you how I'm doing it, and a lot of you have been asking. So I'm just going to show you, and I'm going to make mistakes and learn, but I think that's the fun of it, learning and trying new products. That truly is what keeps me wanting to create different cards. So I'm just going to share what I've learned and how I'm doing it. So I'm taking some of the aqua, some of the blue, and some of the purple, and I'm just keep going back and adding color and adding water until I think it looks nice. And this I really could do all day because I just love how the paints kind of bloom together, and I think it makes a really pretty background. And the best part is no one's will look like yours because everybody's, is going to look different. So I just alternate doing splatters and going in and adding more color and adding more water. And with watercolors, they do dry back, so they always tend to get quite a bit lighter, but that's good because then once they dry, you can go in and add color, or you can just take plain water and lift some of that color away. So I think watercolors are really forgiving, and especially with a set like this that's under $10, I think it's really great. And these colors I didn't find got muddy or chalky, so that's why I really like them. But also because they're under $10, this is a set, if my kids want to try it, I'm more than willing to let them use my watercolors. With some of my more pricey watercolors, I think I'm gonna have to come with a well, after you keep your room cleaned for a week or something like that, and then let them try them. But luckily they haven't shown any interest in any of my more pricey watercolors. Okay, so I cleaned my palette, and that's what I really like about this palette is you can just run it under water and it comes clean. I haven't noticed any staining yet. And I'm weird, I'm not gonna paint in the tins. Everyone else can just make your colors and mix them right in that tin. That's what that's made for. But I'm kind of weird and I don't want it to get messy, so I use a separate palette for everything. So I did splatter some white to simulate the stars, and now I'm going to take some aqua paint to have it in my paint tray because I knew I would want to add more aqua later. So now I'm going to pull out my Fine Tech paints because I did need some sparkle, as always, on my card. And so I wanted to take my little water dropper, and I'm going to put some of the water in each of the little wells and use my little color chart to see which gold I want to use. So I'm pulling out the color, my little color chart, to see which gold, and now I know I'm going to use the white at the bottom, and that's actually, the color is sterling silver, but it looks like a pretty pearly white when it dries. And I'm just using some cheap water brushes. I'll have them linked below. And then I'm using the Arabic Gold. So I alternate between using my heat gun to dry it so I can see how they're actually going to look when they dry to know if I need to add more. And I realized I wanted to add much more gold. And I'm taking my paintbrush and kind of banging it because I really wanted some bigger drops, but I couldn't really get them big enough as I wanted. I wanted some small and some really big, so I actually wind up using my fingers to squeeze some out because I just couldn't get enough gold. There I go, I'm using my fingers and just squeezing it out, and then I get the really big splatters that I wanted a few of. So a little messy, but well worth it. Okay, so on top of the screen I have, this is how the watercolors look when they're swatched out on actual watercolor paper. And I think you can get a much better idea of what they're going to look like. So I'm taking a little bit of the blue and lots of water, and I'm going to start shading in the clouds. And then I'm going to color all the images. I also peeled out a little bit of the Prima Tropicals because I knew I liked that brown better. It was a prettier brown, I thought. The brown in the Classics set I found to be a little, I didn't like the color as well. It's a little muddy, I think. So I'm taking some of the brown paint and starting to paint the little teddy bear. And I just use mostly water with just a little bit of paint. And I think that's what makes watercolors so beautiful, is just the way you can make water just do magic things with it. So I'm kind of going around the outside to shade and then leaving the inside empty so I can just go in with just a little bit of color. And then it's going to dry back, and then I can go back and add more. I just want to make sure I don't have any harsh lines, but otherwise I think it looks really soft and pretty. So I just keep waiting till it dries, and then I go back and add a little more color, kind of building the colors as I go. But then again, I just want to remind you, when you're doing this, you don't have to be afraid, because if you make it too dark, the beauty of watercolors is you can just take water and go back and lift that color and make it just how you like it. And often the best way to do that, I think, is to take your water brush or take your paintbrush, dip it in the water, wipe it out off on a cloth, and then basically your paintbrush is damp and you can really pull up a lot of paint color from like that. So now I use a little bit of pink in the cheeks, and I'm going to use a very light blue for the clouds. And now I'm taking my fine tech paints again, and I'm just going over with the white, this pearl silver, and adding a little bit of shimmer to the moon and the star. And then I'll add a little bit of dots of the yellow just to add a little more interest to the images. And I just really, I can't see it on screen very well, but this fine tex paints, they really add some shimmer in person that is just beautiful. So I think these fine tech paints are well worth it also, even though they're about twice the price of this, the Prima colors. Okay, so now I get to pull all the tape up and see how the background looks, and I think it turned out really pretty. So I'm going to take my image and I'm going to die cut it, and then it's going to make it look like an actual card panel. But I wasn't sure if the paint was dry, so I did take my heat gun because I don't want any of that gold paint to rub off on my cutting plates and smear or anything. And then also with the images that I painted, I'm going to use my heat gun to make sure they're thoroughly dry. So I'm going to use my washi tape to arrange all my dies and cut them out really cute. And I did have several images that I didn't show me painting that I have ready to go for another card, but I really just had a hard time stopping painting because I really enjoy it. As much as I love coloring with Copics, I love coloring with any kind of color medium, and that's what keeps it fun to me, is just continually trying new products and new techniques. So I'm running that through my die cutting machine, and I'm running through the card base, and I'll have the dies linked below, of course. And now I'm stamping out the sentiment. I'm using my Misty on top of that paint, and I'm just taking it twice, and I'm using the VersaFine pigment ink. I find that works really well. So I'm double stamping it so it turns out really dark and black. And again, I have not cleaned my little scrubber, so it really didn't come very clean. So you do have to put that thing under some water every now and then and clean it. Clean your cleaner and your scrubber. Okay, so now I'm taping up the moon with some pop dots, some foam tape. And I just wanted to lay the little teddy bear in there like he's resting. And if you'll notice, I did not paint the bow on the teddy bear yet. And actually, I think I painted both the teddy bears exactly the same, but I think I cut that part out of the video, so I apologize. But I painted it just exactly the same as I did the other teddy bear. But I did not color the bow intentionally because I didn't know where I was going to place it on the card, and I want the color to contrast, so I thought I would wait and put them on the card and decide where I wanted them to go, so then I could pick the color. So I'm putting everything on with adhesive, and I'm using foam tape for the teddy bears, and then I'm just gluing the cloud on with some Tombow Mono adhesive. And I'm going to use my tweezers to make sure I can get it how I like it. And then I'll go ahead and take the adhesive off and pop the teddy bear up. So now I'm going to get out the paints again really quick, and I'm going to paint the bow aqua. But if I would have put it down lower on the card, then I would have painted it purple. So I'm kind of one of those last minute people. I kind of want to leave myself till the last minute to decide which color is going to look the best to me. So I originally put this on a card base that was just watercolor paper. But then I decided after I was finished it would look much better on black cardstock. So I pulled out my Nina 100-pound cardstock, and I'm just going to make a regular card base out of that. I'm going to use my bone folder to fold that in half and score that. But I thought the contrast will look much better, and it also pulls in the sentiment. So, but one thing I did want to mention is how much I hate this paper trimmer. So even though you're seeing me use it, just because I use it, sometimes I use it just because I have it, but I have to use my little nail buffer almost every time I cut with it, even though I just changed the blade. So had to mention that, but I did just use my ATG gun adhesive to tape that down, and then I think this black looks much better than the original watercolor paper I had used. And that completes the card today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you give watercolors a try. They're really easy, and I enjoy them a lot, and I hope you do too. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.